and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Christa Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, but if you're unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's fine. We do record the show as we are doing today, and it will be available later for you to watch at your convenience. Both the live show and the recordings are free and open to anyone to watch. So please do share with anyone who you think might be interested in any of the topics we have on NCompass Live. For those of you who might be watching this not from Nebraska, the Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for libraries. So we provide training and resources and databases and grants and consulting and all sorts of things to all types of libraries in the state. So you will find shows on NCompass Live for all types of libraries, public, academic, K-12, corrections, museums, historical societies, et cetera, really anything that has to do with libraries. It's really our only criteria that has to do something to do with libraries. We have guest speakers that come in sometimes from across Nebraska and across the country to speak on, to present on NCompass Live, but we also have Nebraska Library Commission staff to talk about things that we're doing here at the Commission. And that is what we are doing today. Today, we are going to be telling you all about the Nebraska Library Commission grants coming up for 2026. And so joining me today to do that is Sally Snyder and Holli Duggan, both from the Library Development Department. Sally is our Children's and Youth Services Coordinator. Did I get it right? And she handles our youth grants. And Holli is our CE Coordinator, Continuing Education. Hi, Holli. And she handles our CE and training grants, and I handle our internship and library improvement grants. So this morning we are going to spend a little time going over all the grants that are available, where you can find the information about them, and some just kind of look a little bit at the forms and some tips and tricks about how to submit your grants. So this is our, starting off here on our Library Commission homepage, nlc.nebraska.gov is the URL for that. And over here on the left, we have a lot of flyout menus for various things. And about in the middle is one that says grants. And this has information about grants, funding, and E-rate, also anything like funding related in this flyout menu here. And the ones we're talking about, so you find lots of other resources here for funding and money. So please do look through these at your leisure later. But today we're going to be talking about our Library Commission related grants, NLC related grants. There are multiple links here that go directly to the grants that we're going to be talking about today. Also, there are previous grants that we still have links to because there's some information up about them just for ongoing ongoing historical purposes. So you'll still see previous grants up here. But the ones we're talking about are the continuing education, library, internship, library improvement, and youth grants for excellence. So you can jump to either one of those directly if you want to, or there's one general link right up here at the top that goes to a main page about all of the grants that we offer here through the Library Commission. There are multiple grants on this page as well, the 4 we're going to be talking about today, plus a couple of extras that are here that I'll just briefly mention to get those out of the way while you're looking at this. The Fern V. Heim Library Trustee Scholarship. This is something that Holli works with. Do you want to just do a little brief plug for that one, Holli?
So it's still, the applications are still open until October 3rd. This is for current library board members only. And it was obviously to help libraries with small budgets send their board members to conference. So it was ARSL, but that's a little soon. So if you want to apply to attend the Nebraska Library Association conference, is going to be October 22nd and 23rd, and we're in New York this year. So you can apply, current board members can apply for this scholarship to attend that conference.
And ARSL is next week, but you can still sign up, register for the virtual if you want to.
Right. Yeah. So you could, if you want to get the scholarship application in this week, still you could for the virtual option.
Yeah, because the ARSL Association for Rural and Small Libraries Conference is next week, Wednesday through Saturday, the September 17th through the 20th. And there is a virtual option for some of the days. So if you wanted to, you could, the board members could use this scholarship to do that, correct?
Right.
They wanted to, yep. Otherwise, NLA in October. Send your board members.
Yes.
To conference. It will get them, more involved in what you're doing in your library, learn more about what libraries are doing, and they will earn the CE that they need for their board member certification. Library board certification, very important.
Yep. So if you scroll down, the application's at the bottom. Yep. So the grant application, fill that out, get that submitted, and then the acknowledgement, the indication of support form, that'll just be either the board president or the library director will sign that. And then we do have links to the NLA conference site and then the ARSL conference. Yep.
So you can get signed up for everything. Great. All right. The other grant that we have on here is already closed. It was this year we had a Little Free Library early literacy grants. We had funding available to help some libraries across the state or some groups and organizations across the state to set up Little Free Libraries. And that one closed back in August. So that one is done, but the information is still up here if you're interested in that. So we'll be helping some communities get Little Free Libraries set up. So that's those two, but the four other ones we're going to talk about today, all four of our grants now open and are all on the same schedule. We used to have different schedules for each of our grants, so you had to think about different dates. We decided 2 or 3 years ago, I forget, to try them all on the same schedule, and it worked out fine. We had thought, you wanted to spread out having to apply for them, or if a director needed to worry about all these different grants, but we realized it wasn't not too bad. So all of these grants open next Friday, September 19th. So right now we are going to show you some of the forms through the web pages, but the applications are not live until the morning of Friday, September 19th. They will all be due November 14th. So you've got a couple of months to figure out what you want to do. You may already have been thinking about that, and get the application submitted. So I'll do November 14th. And you all know all approved applications who are receiving funding will be notified by the very latest December 31st. So by the end of the year. Generally, we get the notices out before that, as long as we get a team together here to review them and make our decisions as quickly as possible, but we do give ourselves till the end of the year. And this is all for funding, as it says here, for 2026. So we open up here in the fall. By the end of the year, you know that you will have the funding for something to use for next year in 2026. So here, continuing education has the available due and recipients notified dates. And if you scroll down, you have your link to your internship, library improvement, and youth grants. They all have the same dates. You'll see here as I'm scrolling through this, it keeps popping up this grant recipients database. I'll just mention that briefly while we're looking at this before we get into the grants. This is where you can look up and see any grants that we have given out to libraries. Going back, I guess the oldest one here says 1998. Wow. So you can, if you want to see if your communities already received a grant for something, you can look up your library by name, by city. If you want to know if someone has received a particular grant, you can look that up, and you can limit it by whatever year the grants were. Not every grant was offered every single year, starting from the beginning of this database to now. So you'll see here some of them, they were years when we took off or when the grants changed names and whatnot. But if you're ever interested in what any libraries have received funding for, you can look it up here. You'll get the, usually there'll be a small blurb or a couple of sentences about what they received a grant for. Not the full grant application, but at least the basics of what it was. Was it books? Was it a program? Was it computers, et cetera, et cetera. Also, if you're trying to think of what you could apply for a grant for funding for, this can give you some ideas too. So look up, if you're interested in doing something for youth services, look up the Youth Grants for Excellence to find the most recent ones, and then you can just look up all of them if you want to do and see what people have done, what they've applied for. You can see the years, the amount they received, and then the basics of what that grant was for. All right, I think we will just start at the top here and do this alphabetically because it's just easy that way. So we'll start with the continuing education and training grants, which is Holly. So Holly, I will hand over to you to talk about this.
Like Christa said, that angry red box will go away, but on the 19th.
It will go away as of September 19th. So we'll just there.
Just a reminder, they're not open right now. But so for the continuing education grants, for this round, we are opening it to online learning courses, attending out-of-state conferences or other workshops, or then if you have an idea for like a larger staff continuing education project, we have those applications will be open. Purpose of these is really to improve the library services in your communities by getting that extra training and working on your CE. So if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see the different sections. So the first is like the online learning courses. These are any non-academic credit courses. So like library juice courses, any of the online courses through ALA or any of its divisions. There are other, obviously, lots of different course class providers like American Management Association, and as long as in your application, as you can show us how it would improve your library service, you can apply for it. Or like grant writing workshops. So it's not limited to specific library science courses. But in your application,
think outside the box, yeah.
Yes. But in your application, you need to show us how it will help your library and why you want to take the course. The courses don't include anything that's offered by NLA, NSLA, or the Library Commission, or any of the library systems. We're just, we're trying to help you sort of get extra training that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And again, college, university, or like professional certificate courses aren't included in this grant. And then we have the due date, and then like all of these grants or all of these applications, you need to be either employed in an accredited public library or state-run institutional library, or a current board member.
So this is for actual staff and board members.
Yes.
That's good, yeah.
And then if you go down a little bit, we have the conferences and workshops. So eligible costs, you can see registration, travels, meals, lodging, pre-conference fees. Again, that you need to be a public library employee or a current board member to apply for it. And for both of these conferences and online courses, they're reimbursement grants. So you will be responsible for registering yourself, making all the travel plans, attending the course or the conference, and then after you're done, then you'll submit the paperwork for reimbursement. And then if you go down a little bit, there's some information about the larger staff training projects. So you can see some examples, like a staff in-service day. One library brought in Bridges Out of Poverty workshop.
Yeah.
I think it was the day or two training that they did, or some board development training. So these are for bigger projects that you might have in mind that you can use, or that you can offer for board members, volunteers, other supporters of the library. You can partner with other organizations. But for that kind of project, you do need the 25% match of the amount requested. And that'll be a different application at the bottom. And again, the only restriction on that is, again, that it can't be applied to an individual or even multiple staff members that are applying to attend a conference. Those individuals, if they want to attend a conference, they would need to apply for individual conference C.
The conference grant instead, yeah.
So this isn't for like one library applying for 5 members to attend a conference. This is like, you want to bring a workshop speaker in or something to your library. Is there any questions about just general CE grants or what you can apply for? Oh, and since these are reimbursement grants, they do need to be within June 2026.
Right, it does have that up here, yeah. For all of these are for, and there we go.
Events happening
Applications
before.
for events happening before June 2026, yes.
And if you do want to apply to attend like the ALA conference, I was just trying to look at the date. I don't remember the date right offhand.
Oh, for next year, yeah.
Yeah. It's June 27th to July 2nd. So if you want to apply for that one, you can. We might just have to do the paperwork a little bit differently. But you can still apply for that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ALA is always on a timing that messes with our schedule for this. And some of you have noticed this before. We will do a second round of CE grants, depending on how much funding is available next year in the spring. That will be for things you might be attending in the second half of 2026. Right. So right now you're just thinking about the first half and maybe ALA. And then there'll be a whole nother round that will open up usually like in March is when we do it, for things you might be attending the second half of the year.
Right.
So if you did want to, for example, attend ARSL, Association for Rural and Small Libraries, next year, I don't know where it is. I don't think they announced it yet. I think they announced it at this year's conference. So wherever it's going to be.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, in 2026, then you'd wait for that second round because that conference doesn't usually happen until the fall.
Yeah.
We do have a question, yes, about the CE and training projects. Could a library open the workshop to other libraries or to the larger campus for university libraries? That's 2 different questions, I think.
Well, so the public library would have to be the main applicant, but you could partner with other libraries and then open it up, and you would just need the 25% match. But you would need the public library to be the main host or applicant. But then you definitely can partner.
Right. So to be clear, all of these grants we're talking about today, the 4 grants are for public libraries, and you have to be an accredited public library or and I think you had a nice a state-run institutional library, and we have a specific list of the ones that meet that criteria. Youth rehab centers, veteran homes, etc. All of these are eligible to apply for all of our grants as well. So these are public library or state-run institutions are eligible for all this. But we do encourage, partnering. So if you are from a university or an academic or a K-12 school and you're interested in doing something, find your local public library, have them do the application and state that it's going to be a joint thing with them helping you with this. But the public library is the one that, or the state-run institution that are eligible for all these grants to apply. But then the answer to your question would be yes, you could. Open it up to other libraries to come and attend,
definitely. So then if you go,
this one here, obviously the road trip was, if I remember, I don't remember who actually applied for that. It was so long ago, but it was just anybody who wanted to. There was a bus trip put together to go to ALA in Chicago. So that was a group of people from all sorts of libraries.
All different projects. So,
any other questions about CE and training grants? If you do have any think of later, you want to ask Holly about, does this count? Which one should I apply for? Email her here at the commission and she will help you out with that one.
And all the applications are at the bottom.
Right, yes. Each one has its own form, so just make sure you do the correct.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we already talked about those. Next up, we've got our internship grants. That's me. Okay. Internship grants are, we provide funding for libraries to hire an extra staff person or two to help out at your library for any projects you have, special projects, summer reading program, whatever you want. So this is if you are looking for, you need some extra people to work. It is specifically, the main purpose of the internship grants is to introduce students, high school and college students, to working in libraries to try and we have had success stories of that where afterwards the intern who worked at the library as an intern has then gone on to become a librarian, either working at that library or just go to library school. That's kind of the whole idea, is to introduce them to the varied and exciting work of Nebraska libraries, as we say on the webpage here. Basically, it's a recruitment tool. They don't have to end up working in a library. It's okay if they just ended up working for the summer for you and then that was it and they went off and became an archaeologist or something. That's okay. But the idea is to show them all the what we do at libraries and to get you some help, some funding. You can get grants for either $500 or $1,000. And you can have 1 or 2 interns if you want to. Generally, you know, 500 for one, 1,000 could be $1,000 for one person, or 1,000 where you split it up half and half to for 2 different interns. But you can do it however you want to. So however you want to work out their hours and what they're doing and what the project is, that's up to you. This is can only be used for wages to pay the intern, nothing else. Wages or withholding of taxes, that's all the funding is for. It's not to pay anyone else's staff or to help, like they maybe are working on your summer reading program, buying materials for that. No, this is just to pay the person who's helping you to do the work. We do have some resources here. I did an NCompass Live a few years ago about tips and tricks for internship success. You can watch that if you were recording of that if you want to. We have some orientation plan and timeline examples here that you can use to try and figure out what you're going to be doing with your intern. And the Department of Economic Development here in Nebraska has their own guidebook about internships as well that you can look at to get more info. Again, this one is only for accredited Nebraska public libraries. But you can partner with some other library if you want to. Maybe you'll take your intern on a field trip to the K-12 school or the college, so you can work with them, local college, and say, hey, let's have you go and see what it's like working in a university library as opposed to a public library. So you can do that. As I said, your intern has to be a high school or college student. And they cannot have ever been employed as by staff at a library anywhere currently or previously. So a previous staff person at your library or any other library is not eligible. This is for people who have never worked at a library. If they were a previous intern, that's okay. That doesn't count as a library employee. Or if they volunteered at your library at some other library, that's okay as well. So you can have a former intern or former volunteer, but not someone who has already had a job, a professional job at a library. We do recommend doing stipend-based internship, where then the intern handles their taxes themselves. Generally, they don't make enough money to have to worry about that, so it makes it easier. Or you can hire them as a part-time temporary employee. I would work with your city clerk, village clerk, to determine how they prefer the payment. We don't have any rules about how that works. You do whatever works best for you. However, we do require that you do meet minimum wage requirements here in Nebraska. Minimum wage is determined by Nebraska Revised Statute 48-1203. And as of January 1st, so next year, when you'll be having this intern work for you, minimum wage will go up to $15 an hour. So you will have to pay them $15 an hour. There is a training wage that you can pay students, 75% of minimum wage, so you can do that if you want to, but you're going to want to be competitive with other jobs in your community, so we highly recommend that you try and work out that you can pay them the minimum wage. We did say you can hire students, and there are specific rules if you're hiring anyone under the age of 16, and we have information here from the Department of Labor about what hours they can work. This is federal law, and there's federal and state law that applies to this. So if you are hiring someone who is that young, please do look at all this and make sure you get the employment certificate done with their school, through their school district, the school that they go to. Even though they're working in the summer, that's who's in charge of signing it. And all links to all of that about the employment of minors is here on our website as well. There is some things that you will do here, introducing the intern to library work, having someone be their supervisor, or keeping up on what they're doing. There are forms that you will be submitting before and after the grant process, the grant time period. After you are approved to receive the grant, I send you an email with a document attached with links to PDF forms and SurveyMonkey surveys that we put out. We have a before the intern surveys that the intern will do, and afterwards, and then some intern supervisor surveys answering some questions about how it went. How was the intern themselves? How was the internship process in the program? So you'll have a separate document that'll be sent to you with all the things that you'll have to fill out. The application form is here at the bottom of the page, and we do link to it. I do link to it from the top, so you just click here, it'll pop you down to where the application form is. Basic information here on the form, your library info, whether you're getting $500 or $1,000, how many interns you're getting, you may be looking for, high school or college students. And then then you've got a bunch of free text fields here. Just explain what you're doing, what your plans are, your proposed schedule. All of this does not have to be in stone. If something changes between the time you apply for it this fall and next year when you do the actually hire the intern, that's okay, just let me know. If you end up wanting to hire 2 people when you said it was only going to be 1, that's okay, just let me know. And then you just submit it, and we do have a list of previous grant winners as well, a separate list that we post for this that you can look at and just see which libraries over the years have received internship grants from us. I do. Good. So if you're interested in seeing who has received it, we've got a separate page here on our Now Hiring at Your Library website. So that's the basics of the internship grant. Any questions about interns or internship grant, the internship grant itself? You can have them do any sort of project you want. You can have them just be a roaming staff person that jumps from department to department and learning a little bit about everything. You know, it does say we want to introduce them to working in the library, and you can have them go to all the different departments, or you can just say you're just here for this special, you know, we're reorganizing the library and all the books need to be moved and recataloged, and you're going to help out with that, something like that. Or you can say, very common, we need extra hands for summer reading, which is very often the case. And that's perfectly fine if they just are going to work in a summer reading program. Some people have done, we need someone to get our website up and going, our social media really going, and start it up, because we haven't done that yet. They can be just doing that specific project. Whatever you need. Any questions about the internship program? All right. And I'm going to pop back to our main page again. And Library Improvement Grants is the third grant that we have available. And this is one that I am also in charge of. So library improvement grants, we have this, we are wrapping up our current year grants, our 2025 grants. So we have this little in-between page here at the moment. It's like this for the library improvement and the youth grants that you'll see when Sally talks about hers. So right now there is a link to the completion report for the New and Hooded 2025 grant, the current one. But then there's a link to apply for the new grant that will be opening. I'm just checking something quickly. Okay, okay. Somebody's car alarm was going off and it was very distracting. I wasn't sure if you all could hear that. I'm sure Holly could because she's next door in her office. All right, so library improvement grants. These are grants that for any sort of new program, new equipment, furniture. It's really a catch-all for anything you want to additionally you want to do in your library, at your library. Previously, these were the LSTA grants, Library Service and Technology grants, that we used funding from the IMLS, Institute of Museum and Library Services, to fund these. That was federal funding. Last year, we switched them to state funding. There has been uncertainty about if IMLS was going to be around or have enough funding for this kind of program. So we decided to just switch things up and make it state funding, so we don't have to worry about what's happening in the federal government side. And so we are again doing this as a with our state funding. So this is something that is to supplement your current budget. And actually for all of these grants, this should be the case. This is not to replace any of your current budget. You should, your municipality, your city or village should not be reducing your library's budget because you received a grant. They should never do that. This is additional on top of what you already have as a budget for your library. Additional funding to do something extra that you couldn't possibly do with your basic budget that you have. And there are some purposes that you could, your grant could fall into. Now, if you ever just submitted one of these before, you will recognize that some of the program goals and some of the information here and some of the information on the application form is very similar to what we always had you fill out when it was federal funding. We've kept some of those reasonings and questions, but hopefully we've made it a little easier too, not as strict. So you could help facilitate access to resources, adding a new database, adding new shelving, do resource sharing, have a literacy program, a lifelong learning program, any sort of service, new programs or services that you're going to offer at the library, preservation of knowledge and library collections. So if you need to update your ILS or switch to a different system, cataloging system and circulation system, we can help with funding for that. And any other library services that you need to promote. Really, it could be anything you need to do at your library could receive a library improvement grant. You do need to be an accredited public library or institutional library to apply for this grant, just like all the other ones. And you can partner with someone. So if you do have a K-12 school or academic or special library that you want to partner with to help out with whatever your program is, or the project that you're doing, or anyone, you can do that. But the public library or the institutional library is the primary applicant. We have our deadlines here. Applications open September 19th, due November 14th. For this grant, since you are purchasing things, anything purchased after September 19th, so the day that the grants open, is eligible for reimbursement. This is also a reimbursement grant. This isn't a reimbursement grant, but they're eligible to use the funding for. So you may be planning a project and you need to buy things before you actually are approved. That's okay. You can start working on it if you want to. However, you do have to understand, until you are notified that you have been approved, you can't guarantee you have the money. But if you did happen to buy something after September 19th of this year, you would be able to submit those invoices afterwards. You have to request all your grant funding by August 15th though. So you have to have everything done and purchased by then and spent by September 30th. So you request your funding and then spend it, and then you send me the invoices showing what you spent. And then there is a completion report that you will submit, also an online completion report that's due by November 1st. So just reporting on what you did. There are some things that are ineligible. Food and beverages, you have to pay for that yourself. Sales tax. Public libraries in Nebraska are governmental units and are exempt from paying sales tax for everything. Don't ever pay sales tax. I may be sounding a little harsh here, but we have received too many invoices with libraries who did pay sales tax. So you should be talking to any of your vendors, any of the companies you work with. I know I do get invoices from people who purchase things through Amazon, and they have submitted this exempt sales certificate form 13 to Amazon, so they automatically do not charge them sales tax. They know that it's a thing. This is for all libraries, do not pay sales tax. So we will not reimburse for that. If for some reason you have to, or you just do and forget that you weren't supposed to, you will not be able to include that sales tax as when you're submitting invoices to me. I will subtract that from the amount until I that you are saying you spent the funding on. Entertainment, that's not educational, so just having a a party that's not related to some program. Giveaways are not eligible. Advocacy and lobbying is not eligible. Any alcohol and social activities, and PR or advertising for, now this is specific for general things, just saying, hey, come to the library. You can't use any of the funding from this to pay for flyers and promotion for that. But if you are specifically saying, come for the library's particular program that the funding was used to pay for, then you can use that funding, some of that money, to help do the promotion because you are saying it's a specific program. So there's that kind of little line there. You do have to submit your invoices afterwards, or as you're going through. You can send me invoices as you go. You just email them or mail them to me. Email, mail, fax, I take everything. So you have to provide invoices proving that you spent all the funding that was provided. There is a local match for this of 25% of the total project amount. So you do have to provide some of your own funding for this. So if you take the total amount of the project and say it's going to cost this much, the Library Commission will cover 75% of the cost, and then you would cover 25%. And at least 10% of that must be cash, so actual money, but the rest of it could be in kind, people volunteering their time, people donating materials, donating in, like equipment for, or materials for like a project or a program. That can be counted as well. And here is the application. Now this is the completion for this year. Once this one is wrapped up, this will switch over and be the one for next year. So look for that later. But for now, you will just submit the grant application, which, as it says here, will go live and be able to be submitted as of September 19th. Basic library information. Pick a purpose. You can select more than one because some things you might be doing might fall into multiple categories. That's okay. This is something that was more restricted previously when it was federal funding. You only had to only be able to pick one thing here and one activity you're doing. I've made it that we know things are going to cross depending on your program. So we've made it so you can select multiple depending on whatever fits what you're doing. You'll write up a summary of what you're doing here, free text. I recommend writing something up elsewhere and copy and paste it into here. These forms do not save as you go. If you go off of this, you have to come back and start over again. What is your intent? Choose whichever one of these cover your program. Lifelong learning, information access. As you can see here, you can choose more than one. Whichever ones cover what you're doing. What kind of activity are you doing? Are you just buying stuff? Then it's just procurement. That's fine. But if you're doing other things with the stuff that you're buying, you can click additional items as well, depending on whatever meets what you're doing. Who is this for? Is it just for anyone, or is it for a targeted group? If you choose targeted group, it will open up and give you all the different choices of how you can focus in on exactly who this program is, who this project is going to benefit. The format is, how is it being done? Is it in-house? Is a third party doing it? How are you, is it something digital, database, something physical, books, et cetera, et cetera. Just look through this and check all the things that fit what you're doing. What outcomes, what do you expect, what kind of an effect do you expect this to have on your community and your library users? How are you going to figure out that, what happened? Are you going to do surveys, interviews? And then your budget. You do need to put in a suggested budget here. It can be adjusted later if you realize things cost different or go into different categories, that's okay. But we do need to have an idea of what you're going to be spending, what each category you're going to be spending the money on. And then underneath that, in this box, you will actually specify in more detail. You know, up here, you just put the numbers down here. You would say, you know, if you're buying a computer, you know, the Dell computer model number, blah, 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 with these criteria, plus a monitor, plus a keyboard. This is where you'd write out all the individual items that you were going to be purchasing. And then you just sign off and submit it. Any questions about library improvement grants? As I said, if you're unsure about what you could submit, I recommend checking that grants recipients database, limit it to library improvement grants, and you can see the kind of things that have been submitted previously, have been approved for applications previously. I will also mention that we do give partial grants. So for, you know, for example, for the internship grants, it's either 500 or 1,000. For these grants, you just put in however much money you want, and we will, depending on how much funding we have available and how many applications we get, we may fully fund your grant, or we might do a partial. We might say, well, due to funding limitations, we can only do 50% of your project. So we'll give you this much, and then you can find the rest of the funding elsewhere. We have found in the past that in many for many libraries, if they receive a grant from us, then they have a better chance of getting other additional funding from other organizations, other grant funders, other stakeholders that might have money in the community. You know, they say, hey, the state says that this is a good project and they can support it. They don't have this much money, so then you can maybe go to a local business or to some other foundation and say, can you help cover the rest of the cost? Or to your friends group or your foundation. So we do give partial grants. So we recommend, I get the question a lot, how much should I ask for? Ask for whatever you need. Ask for however much the project's going to cost, and you might get all of it, you might get part of it. There's no restrictions or amounts that you are only allowed to ask for. Just tell us what your project is, put in the amounts, and then we will figure it out. We put together a team for all of these grants. We put together a team of people that evaluate it here with the Library Commission and our regional library systems to discuss, you know, which ones we're going to approve. Okay, any questions about library improvement grants? Type into that questions section of your GoToWebinar interface. Something else I'm going to mention here that you might notice is no longer an eligible cost is built-in equipment, shelving, construction. Previously, for the federal funding, that was a restriction from the LSJ grants. It could not be used for anything that was built in and permanently attached to your building, or that was construction-based, that was going to be permanently in place. Since we're using state funds now, that restriction no longer applies. So you can purchase things now that are built into the library, like shelving that's actually attached to the walls. It doesn't have to be movable. So I'll just mention that as in case anyone's wondering about that. Used to be on here. Nobody have any other questions? Any questions about library improvement grants? All right, and we'll go back to the main page here, and youth grants for excellence. This is Sally. So Sally, I'm gonna have you talk about the youth grants.
While I was listening to you both, I decided I'm going to rename my youth grants for excellence, amazing youth grants for excellence. So it can be, just kidding. That would be too cumbersome, but I thought it'd be fun to rename it. So again, I have the page, like the first page that she went to. It has the 2026 Youth Grants for Excellence information, and the 2025 completion report is still there. So you need to click again on the Youth Grants for Excellence button. And again, the red box will go away on the 19th. And there are similarities and some differences between the library improvement grants and the youth grants for excellence, because we made some restrictions a number of years ago and we're sticking with them so far. We'll hit that in a minute, but this is just some general information here about what are our goals in offering these grants, and then who's eligible. Again, it's accredited Nebraska public libraries or institutional libraries identified as the others are. But I do like to mention, we've talked about partnering with other, partner with your school or another entity. If your library, the next town over, is an unaccredited library, but they want to work with you on a project, that's how unaccredited libraries can be involved. So but the application has to come from the accredited library, and then talk about your partnership. And my rule is, if you purchase things like tech kits or books and things like that, 51% of the items have to reside in the original grant recipient's library, and some can reside in the other library, but at least just over half must be in the applying library's collection. That's just a rule I made. Nobody's told me not to.
Makes sense.
So we have, again, the same deadlines and timetables as the other grants, which makes it easy for everybody. They don't have to worry, did I get my application in on time? We've got the same dates here. Then I
Your
have some
completion
timelines.
report is a different deadline, though, than the library improvement one.
That works great for us. A number of years ago, people said, but I can't write all these applications at the same time. And we didn't mean that. That's why we give you such a, what we think of as a long time when they become available September, and they're not September 19th, they're not due till November 14th, isn't it? Whatever.
Yeah, that's supposed to be 14th. We'll get that fixed.
And so a month and a half seems pretty decent, but everybody's busy. I know that. So what you got to do is look at what you want to ask for, which grants you're going to apply for, and just set yourself some timetables. I'm going to get this application done by this time, or, and ask for information from us. We can help you get things going if you need it. So then I have some information about things that you might want to know. I'd like to point out the second dot down there, what is required, details. Please, please, please tell us what you want to do. I use this example every year, but many years ago now, a library applied for a youth grant, and they were going to have 4 programs during the summer. That's all they said about the programs. And we didn't have enough funds, so we didn't give them the money. And the director came back and said, but we were going to do this and this. He had everything planned out. He just didn't tell us. And if I know all this planning he'd done, that could have made a difference in getting funded. So, and as Christa said, just because you put this into your plan, I think your grant application is a plan. Here's what we're thinking of doing. And then you get funded and you go, oh, I can't use Bob's warehouse for our party after all. I have to go it's okay. Just let us know. Things change, we know that. And Bob's warehouse is doing something else now. My examples are great, aren't they? So we have a number of types of projects. This is just, if you scroll down a little bit, what kind of projects will be eligible for the youth grants. These are just some ideas. This is not a limiting list. This is just trying to get you to think about what might we want to do. And as Christa said, look at some previous applications in an effort to encourage you to be detail oriented. There are exemplary applications, sample ones. And if you go to the Platsmouth from 2020, towards the bottom. This is her actual application. You can look right through there, read what she wrote. If you go down, you'll see her plan. She worked out the details were. And as people have told me later, doing all this planning ahead of time, it's really saved me work when the event came around, because I already had all this planned out and I knew I'd contacted people and I knew what I was going to need for this. And it really made things go much more smoothly, which is an added benefit of sending me your details. So this is one, all of these applications are exemplary in one way or another for how they approached telling us things. We do have some, I have just below that exemplary is the tips for writing a successful grant application. And that's just a general list we have on our webpage, which helps you think about, well, what else should I put in there and how should I work on this? And you'll see number 1 says, show detail, detail, detail. Oh yes, that's my favorite word when I talk about grants, because I want you to have a good application and I want your program to work really well. And I want you to get the funding you need to do it. And saying that, this is also to help you try something new and different. You've heard other people have had this, but you've never had it. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, it's okay. You tried this program, nobody came or whatever, it rained that day and you couldn't be outside. Stuff happens, we know that. That doesn't put you on a blacklist for ever applying again. No, send us another application the next year. It can be how you would, an adjustment to that idea or a whole different idea. We don't hold grudges. We don't put you on a list, say, oh, they had a bad thing. No, you tried it. That's what we're trying to encourage. Try something different.
Grants can be used as like a proof of concept type thing. Like, we're going to try this out without spending our own money first and using the grant. And then if it is a success, then now we know this is a good project or a good program we should do. Now let's figure out working it into our budget or working on finding ongoing funding for it.
Exactly. That's a good way to put that. So what I want to scroll down to ineligible costs. We have the matching funds. It's the same for ours as the other ones. Now for youth grants, you cannot purchase furniture or food or beverages, and you cannot purchase computers or AWE workstations or things like that. The only exception to computers is if your project is something that, for example, people have purchased 3D printers before for projects for teens to use, and generally you need a laptop to work with the 3D printer to really make it function the way you want it to, from what I understand. So in that case, you say, here's what we want to do. We're going to need a laptop computer. We want this type of laptop, XYZ, and then it will be considered as eligible, but not computers, because apply for that library improvement grant. They are willing to accept and consider grants for projects for children and teens. So
yes.
Please keep
Yes,
that in
and
mind.
we have done this before. Yeah. So the, as you see here on the youth grants, it does say where'd it go? Oh, each grant must have a program. So there's actually a thing you're doing, an event, a program that you're doing. It's not just, I want to buy some books for the youth area. That's not youth grants. Youth grants are, I want to do a specific program or project or something. But if you need the furniture for a children's area, that would be a library improvement grant. Library improvement grants are not limited to any, if you remember at the application form itself, you could say it was for adults or children or teens or whatever. So if you do need shelving in your teen area or furniture in your teen, to expand, you want to make your teen corner be more fun, and it's just for new furniture, that will be a library improvement grant. If you want to do a program with the teens on something, then that would be a youth grant.
Right. And speaking of that, youth grants, another one that's not allowed is just general collection development. I think that's button number 3. If you say, man, my nonfiction really needs an update, I want to buy X number of nonfiction books, that's a worthy thing to do. but the youth grant won't fund that, partly because of the program connection and partly because everybody in the state would apply for a youth grant if I would fund those. So I feel really nasty, but no. If you have a project, say you want to have the kids come to a coding class for the month of June, we're going to have a weekly class and this person from the school is going to teach it. And then we're going to have activities other days and things like this. And I would need to buy some books about coding, nonfiction books about coding, and also some fiction books where coding is an integral part of the story. That's fine, because you do need that support with this project. If you don't have coding books and you're wanting them to learn coding, that's kind of leaving them half helpless. That's what I'm trying to say. So yes, you can have it for a particular project. If whatever your project is, you can buy some books for that project. You just can't say, I have to replace my whole nonfiction collection, because even if that's really what you need to do, I'm sorry that we can't fund that.
Yeah, that's not really what we're doing here. Yeah. This one does also have that same matching funds that the library improvement grant does. So.
Yeah, initially I thought, since I'm the last one to talk, I was just going to say ditto to everything Holly and Christa said. And then here's my 2 or 3 things, but obviously I'm not unwilling to talk.
No, it's all good.
So what I want on my application, if we'll go and click on the application form for a minute, and these might change as time goes by, but this has been the general form I've used for a while. The first item after your information, your library and your name and everything, is a summary of your grant projects. So again, it might be coding for class for young teens ages 13 to 15. And that's the general topic. Then below that are goals. What are some of the goals you want? Why you want the kids to learn this and you want them to be able to handle that, those kinds of things. And then a description of program or activities. Here's where the details come in. We're going to have 4 workshops. The coding teacher at school is going to teach them for me in June. And it's going to be this, week 1 this, week 2 that, so that you have a plan. And again, it's not cut in stone. The coding teacher says, I can't do June, I have to do July. Well, then you're going to have July. And send me an email. Hey, we have to do our program in July. Or, and then, okay, so this is the description. Then down below is the detailed timeline. So June 3rd, we're going to do this. They sound a lot the same, but the number 4 is more specific details. We're going to, on the first week, the first Wednesday, we're going to do this project from coding for beginners or whatever, and more specifics. Then you just have to identify the youth service need. How'd you come up with the idea for this project? Did the coding teacher at school say, hey, we could use some reinforcement on this coding project. Let's do something at this library. Probably. Coding teachers like to work during the summer, right? I don't know. And then down number 6 is, how are you going to find the staffing to do this? And again, you can bring in people, and that can be part of your project cost. If you're giving an honorarium to someone, like the coding teacher gets $100 for doing this, it's not enough really what they deserve, but that's what you can plump in there to help lure them over to help you with this. And so you can say the coding teacher at school and the children's and teen librarian will be working on this project, and we have it worked into their regular schedule. And then means that, yes, we want evaluation. We just always ask for that. And so what do you think you're going to, how do you think you're going to do your evaluation? Are you going to give a questionnaire to the teens? Are you going to observe them if they're engaged or not? Are you going to ask the teacher, well, what do you think? Did anybody learn anything? Find the way that works for you and for your library. And then this little approximate date to begin project. This is such a nebulous thing. Some people put down December 31st. Once I know I have my funding, I'm on the go. That's fine. Other people say, well, I'm going to start in June because that's when my project activities are. Okay. And then this number 9, if awarded a grant, I will be willing, if asked, to make a presentation at a state or system youth event or via teleconference. This is just our sneaky way of finding people who might have something that really worked well and they're willing to share it either on NCompass Live or at the Youth Services Retreat or somewhere else. And so if you say no, that does not mean you won't get a grant. It's just, are you willing or no? And then the budget contracted services are things like the honorarium for the teacher, or maybe you're hiring, some people use this for summer reading program events. So they might be hiring a magician to do the kickoff event or the culminating event for the summer. And that's under the contracted services, put in that amount. Library materials can be books or things that are going to be put in the permanent collection. Personnel costs are when you're using your children, generally with mine, it's the children's librarian's time involved in this particular project. So you might say 10 hours at $10 an hour. I hope they get up to 15 here next year. It's so much money. So that's the personnel costs. That must be your local match. We can't use any of the grant funds to pay a librarian in your library any of their salary. So it has to be the local match. When you get all your numbers down there, then this automatically adds it up. And then you say, out of this, say we have $400 there, out of this $400, what are we going to ask from the library commission? So then you put in $300. I practiced this yesterday, so I'd have it right. Yeah. So $300 from the library commission, and then you have $100 for your match. So you have $100, 10% has to be cash. So you put $10 in the cash match, and you put $90 in the in-kind, because that would be your librarian salary from the city, for example.
Oops. Yeah,
it's not going to work. You should put 10 in the cash match. Let's see if it works.
Oh, just 10?
Just 10. And then 90 under in-kind. And then if you do the math wrong, it won't let you go any further. You get a red something or other. And
It'll
then I
check.
get phone calls saying, why won't this work? It's a little bit touchy. So if
We'll
you
figure
just,
it out for you, yeah.
oh yeah. Oh, one thing also at the very top there is this budget sheet, it says round things up to the nearest dollar amount. We're not doing pennies because that throws it off too. So we just want even dollars. Oh no, not
And it won't even let you.
Oh,
see?
yay. Thank you, Vern. I didn't know he'd done that.
Yeah.
And then down a little bit more, you'll see the okay, so up above you said $100 in, or whatever in contracted services. Here's where you say $100 honorarium to the coding teacher at the school, or $200 to Jason the magician for the party. Under library materials, we're going to buy 10 books about coding. And if you know what they are, I like seeing a list. If you send me a list, you are not tied to those titles. That just lets me know you've done some looking for what you don't have in your collection now and what you might need and what would help. And so these are the ones you're likely to buy. So give me a list, and that can be an attachment or in an email after you can put 10 coding books, 5 fiction, 5 nonfiction, and then list is coming. Under personnel costs, you just put children's librarians' time doing the project. Program materials are, if say you're making tissue paper flowers and you're going to buy the tissue paper. Yes, this is not a coding project. Tissue paper flowers and the chenille sticks and everything. So that's items, the consumable items that you're purchasing, paper, markers, things like that. And then we do have an opening for training if you're doing something more involved and you need some training, that can happen. Equipment, again, not computers, but maybe you need a button maker machine. So several people have purchased those in the past with grant funds. So you want to have a button making machine and have the kids do a project with that. And some promotion. Oh, also among the consumables up above, you can put, if you're buying some little trinkets for prizes, you know, how many kids finish the coding class, they get, I don't know, some kind of fun thing, fun gizmo, a stress ball or something, because now you know coding and you're stressed. I don't know. But those kinds of things. Okay. And then, of course, the world famous other category, because there's always something I didn't think of. And then the form at the bottom where you sign, put your names in there and save and submit. And after you save and submit it, and then you go, oh no, I forgot all about the tissue paper flowers. What am I going to do? You can send me you can do because you, in your wisdom, saved all of those different sections in a different document, all the text for those sections. You can start again with a new grant application, plug everything in, add the tissue paper flowers or whatever you forgot, and send it to me, and then send me an email saying, Sally, please take my second one, not my first one.
Yep.
That's fine. I will.
We can do
And
that
if I-
behind the scenes here. We can just delete and
Yes.
or ignore the first one that was a mistake and do and only look at the second one or the good one that you submitted. Yeah.
So I don't know why that just did that. Okay. And if you send me two, one on the 19th and one on the 21st, and don't say anything to me, I'll wait a while and then I'll email you and say, I have two different applications from you. I'm going to use the 21st unless you tell me not to. And then if I don't hear from you, I'm still going to use the 21st because that's my rule. So I figure you fixed something.
Yeah.
I do look at them both too, but anyway. So have I babbled long enough?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sally. Does anybody have any questions about the youth grants? I do see there's one from before that came in, of course, about the library improvement that I will answer. But does anybody have any questions about the youth grants for excellence to ask of Sally? Type into your question section.
And email me afterwards when you think of that question that's not quite fully formed right now.
Yeah.
Can I ask for this? Because I don't want you to go through all the work of working out your grant application only to ask me later, is this eligible? And I say, no, please don't do all that work. Ask me first.
Yeah, reach out to all of us ahead of time if you want to have any questions about the grants, want to know more about what would or wouldn't qualify, how you should, enter different information. Each of us for the different grants we're in charge of will definitely answer all your questions before you submit your application. So the question that did come in says, can the library improvement grants be used for genealogy rooms? Sure, if the genealogy room is part of your library, and that's something you need to do updating or buy something for, absolutely, yes. Just anything at your library that you need done, inside, outside, library grounds, whatever, we will give, well, even off library grounds. We've done story walks before, book walks, provided that. And the library's involved in the project with the Parks and Rec Department. It's going to be actually in the park. That's okay. We can give funding for that. But yes, you could definitely use it for something related to your genealogy room if it's part of the public library. Yeah.
Something else I was going to mention is after you've written up pretty much your application, not in the form, but on your other Word document or whatever, show it to somebody else, someone who has not worked on it like you. It can be your library board president. It could be your system director. It could be your best friend who just came in to have coffee with you. Have someone else read through it because they come with fresh eyes. They don't know what you have in mind, so they will tell you, this is not clear what you're doing, or why are you getting a cement elephant for the front of the library? I don't understand. Everybody should have a cement elephant. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I will read through grant applications and give advice, but I only have a limited amount of time to do that. So it's good to find someone to try other people to try.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that is our 4 grants that are opening up on September 19th. Anybody have any other questions you want to ask about any of the grants that we have here? Type into the questions section. We have gone a little past 11 o'clock. That's okay. We're recording the whole show. So if you need to step away because you don't have any more time to sit with us here, that's okay. We'll have the recording and all your answers will be out there. So if you have any questions about our grants, youth grants, library improvement, internship, even about the trustee scholarship, that's open, or CE and training grants.
Just real quick, I forgot. For the CE grants, when you're planning on attending conferences, especially if they're a few months away, they might not have like registration prices and like hotels yet. So you can always look at either last year's conference and see what kind of the prices are, or even just give an estimate. We understand things change, and just sort of do your best on what your budget is that you're requesting.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, you don't know yet, absolutely. And same thing for all of them, really. You're going to be giving a guesstimate of what your budget might be. And when you send in your invoices afterwards and they don't match up, that's okay. We don't make them match up. Ideally, you're just telling us, here's our general budget of how much everything's going to cost. And we grant you, well, here's the total amount you'll get. As long as you just tell it gives us invoices for that amount and it relates, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be exact. All right, so we got some more questions popping in here. Okay. Someone says, oh, thank you. I'll be in touch. It's great to see and hear about these opportunities for our libraries. You're welcome. We're glad to be able to do this. Yes. Some years, as I said, and if you look at the grants recipient database, we haven't been able to offer all of the grants every year. But this year we are lucky. We do have enough funding budgeted for each of the grants. So we do have another question here. Would Yoto players and cards for circulation be covered by the library improvement grant? I don't know what a Yoto player is. Do you all know YOTO?
I don't know. We need to find that out.
I don't know. Yeah, but cards for circulation. Yeah, things you need to run your circulation. We've done computers for circulation desk. So yeah, anything related to running the library, absolutely.
Oh, the little audiobook players?
Is that what I'm wondering it is? Like a playaway? Is that another version of, because I know of those, yeah.
Yeah.
Some new brand, there's always something new coming out. I don't want to. Oh, okay. Yoto player plays audiobooks, stories, music, activities, sound effects, radio, and podcasts for children. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm actually, well, yes, it would be for a library improvement grant if you're just buying it to have something that you could check out to the kids, to the children. If you work it into a program or something, like we're going to do a program that uses this, an actual activity thing, that you could do as a youth grant. But if you just, I just want to buy a bunch to have available, that would be the library improvement grant. But yeah, we've done playaways before in the past, but this is.
And we have in the past, when I've received an application for something like furniture, and I'll show it to Christa, and we'll say, yeah, we'll let this person know. At that point, they needed to fill out a different application because of the federal state funds. I don't know, we haven't talked about this year, but we will guide you to the other grant if we think that's
we talk to each other. So yeah, if we get one that we think might be fit better into the other grant category or something, we'll talk about that. And if you do, we have had libraries who have sometimes done youth grants and library improvement grants that are for the same kind of project. But like I said, you can't buy furniture. What was one library that did a makerspace type equipment? They're buying a bunch of stuff for a program that had to do with makerspace. And so they wanted to buy all the things, and then they wanted to buy a big cabinet to house them. The cabinet you couldn't do as a youth grant because it wasn't the actual items and the program, but you could do the library improvement grant for that. And then in each grant refer to the fact that I've applied to this other grant for this. Then we know, oh, these are connected. and we know what's going on, yeah, between the two grants. Yeah, that is related. It's not just some random thing. And so that's a key, that's the thing too. You can apply for more than one grant. You're not limited. You could send in 4 applications, 1 for each grant if you want to. 5 if you want to send your board member to a something. So there's no rules about that. There's no, oh, if they're going to get this one, we're not going to do this one type thing. It's you know, each grant is evaluated separately.
And I have had people ask me if they can apply for 2 different youth grants. Say they have a project for preschool kids and then another project for teens. They aren't related really, so they'll send in 2 separate applications. And yes, you can do that. And you get just as much chance for both of them being funded as for neither of them being funded.
Yeah, we've had the same for library improvement. Yeah, you can submit more than one if you've got 2 projects you want to do. And depending on what our budget, well, depending on how many applications really we get and how much they're for, sometimes we have given libraries multiple grants in a year. Sometimes we have to pick and choose and say, well, we can do one and not the other, unfortunately, because of funding limitations. But if you, and so think about your project, and if they're 2 totally different things, don't just cram them into one application. We would, prefer, these are 2 totally unrelated things, do separate applications. If they're related, like we want children's furniture and teen furniture, you could do that in one. So think about it. All right. Any other? Well, we've been babbling away here. I haven't seen any other questions come in. But does anybody have any other questions you want to ask of us right now while we're here about any of the grants? Any ideas you want to throw out to us? Any questions about the process? Type into the question section. As we said, these 4 main grants all open next Friday, so you'll be able to start submitting them then, and all due November 14th. So you've got 2 months to figure it all out. The trustee scholarship deadline is October 3rd. So if you want to attend next week's ARSL conference virtually, or if you want to attend, if a board member, or if your board member wants to attend NLA next month, that one is due October 3rd. All right, I don't see any other desperate last minute questions coming in, so I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, Sally and Holly, for joining me to talk about the grants we have through the commission this year. We're looking, hopefully we'll get some really good applications, some good projects that we can help you out with. So do reach out to us if you do all have any other questions later on that you think of. All right, so I am going to wrap up our show here, pop back over here to our NCompass Live page. If you use whatever is your search engine of choice and type NCompass Live into the search bar, you'll come up with our main page with our upcoming shows and our archive shows. So here's what we've got coming up the next few months. And here's where our archives are. I said I would show you that. Today's recording will be available by the end of the day tomorrow. And we posted at the top here. All the most recent ones are always at the top. Everyone who attended today's show and registered for today's show, even if you couldn't make it live, will get an email from me letting you know that the recording is ready. We also posted out onto our social media. We have a, we have a Facebook page for NCompass Live. So we'll post on there. You can see here is a reminder to log into today's show. Reminder announcing today's show, and then here's when the recording from last week's was announced. We use NComp Live, a little hashtag abbreviation for anything related to the show. So we post here on our Facebook page for NCompass Live, and we also use the Library Commission's. They have an Instagram page and share things sometimes onto their Facebook page. So if you do like using Facebook, give us a like to be notified of any of our shows. Here on our archive page, I'll show you can search for to see if we've done a show on a particular topic that you might be wanting to watch. You can do a keyword search here. I will show you here, I'm not going to scroll all the way down, but this is our full show archives going back to when NCompass Live first premiered, which was in January 2009. So we are on our 17th year of the show. But do pay attention when you ever watch any old show, pay attention to the original broadcast date. Everything has a date here. Good, some things may be fine to watch, have good, useful information, stand the test of time, and that's fine. But some things will become old and outdated. Resources may have changed. People may have changed drastically. People may work at a different place than when they submitted to it, when they presented for us. Links might be broken. So just be aware of that when you're watching any of our old shows, what the original broadcast date was, so you know that it just at that time in space is when that all happened. All right. So that wraps up for today. Sally will be back with us next on in November to talk about summer reading for next year. Wow, yep, we're thinking about summer reading, so we'll see Sally again then. We are off on October 22nd for our NLA conference. Whenever it is our state Nebraska Library Association conference, we take a week off from NCompass Live. So there will be no show on October 22nd. That's the week of conference. But next week, we will be talking about powerful partnerships are easier than you think. Sam Rundle, who's a program and collection supervisor at our Hastings, Nebraska Public Library, is going to be joining me next week to talk about the partnerships they've built at Hastings Public Library and how it's helped out in their community. So please do sign up for that show and any of our other upcoming shows. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sally, Holly, and hopefully we'll see you all on a future episode of NCompass Live. Bye-bye.
Bye.